Hey, don't rage quit bro here, bringing you an update on my cast when damage taken walking simulator. This will be the third and final video on this character for the league, and if you haven't seen the first two videos, I'd suggest watching them to get a better understanding of the build at hand. Links for both will be in the description below, as well as a link to my current POB. In this video, I'll be showing you my item upgrade choices, gym setups, how I made my items, and showcase some boss fights in the background, including Uber Elder, 100 plus Quant Feared, 5-way Uber Timeless, Maven, and more. Let's start off with the chest piece. I'm still using an unwavering stance Skin of the Lords, though now with 3 red, 2 blue, and 1 green socket. I'll go over skill gym setups here shortly. As for the boots, they are essentially the same as previous, though I got some resistance as the third suffix and went for a bit more ward. I go over crafting the boots in the second video. As for the gloves, I took several base pairs of eye level 84 plus runic gauntlets, and using just primitive resonators and dense fossils, spammed them until they had good ward. Ideally, you want to hit 1 resistance and 2 open suffixes as well. The next step is using the benchcraft chance to avoid being stunned, as we want to block this mod, and then Warlord Exalt slamming. Assuming you were able to block this, it's a 1 in 7 chance to hit Culling Strike, and if you are not able to block this, then it's a 1 in 11 chance. After you get the Culling Strike, then switch the bench to increased crit chance and increased elemental damage if you crit recently, then Hillock 30% benchcraft them, and if applicable, Sacred Orb them until they have a decent base roll. Next up is the helmet, and this is also about the same as previous, though I went until I got a better ward roll as well as the T1 crit multi. I go over crafting these in the second video as well. I will add one thing to that video's directions, however. If you don't hit crit multi, you can use the craft bench prefixes can't be changed, then the harvest bench for reforge crit in order to force a crit roll onto the helmet. If you don't hit crit multi and the suffixes are filled, you can use reforge keep prefix to try again. Repeat these 2 methods until you have the suffixes you desire. Next is the belt. I went with the Stygian belt base with an eye level 84 plus and bought it with increased flask duration and reduced flask charges used already on it with an open suffix. I bench crafted the cooldown recovery rate and used harvest bench reforge keep suffix until I hit a decent life roll and at least 1 open prefix, making sure to not get armor on it as well. From there, it's Hunter Exalt slamming, and you have a 1 in 3.25 chance of getting percent increased max life. Next up is the ring. We'll need 2 rings to make this, 1 unset ring, eye level 84 plus, and 1 other ring, eye level 80 plus. One of the 2 will have Shaper Influence and cast level 12 Assassin's Mark on hit, and the other will have Elder Influence and crit multi. Awaken Orb the second ring onto the unset, giving us both Assassin's Mark and crit multi. In my case, I had an open suffix and prefix. I put on the bench suffix can't be changed, then hit it with a Veiled Chaos Orb. Ideally, I would have liked to hit the recoup on the prefix, then have the suffix open to play with for attributes and resistance as needed, but I hit attributes and this was good enough for me. From here, I did reforge keep suffix until I hit a decent life roll with an open prefix to bench craft on mana recoup. It's a similar process for the amulet. We start with a base with eye level 85 plus, and as we are a little dex starved, went with an implicit with dexterity on it. One amulet will have Shaper Influence for elemental penetration, and the other will have Elder Influence for non-chaos damage added as extra chaos. I then used Awakener Orb to put the 2 together, and in my case I had an open prefix, but suffixes got filled. I put a dummy prefix on, then used Harvest Bench for Reforge Keep prefix, and got an open suffix. I changed the bench mod to prefixes can't be changed and hit it with a veiled chaos and got recoup on it. This took me a few tries to get, as the first few had a bad prefix and attempting to null it off failed. From here, it's using benchcraft for prefix can't be changed and harvest bench for reforge crit until I hit a T1 crit multi. I don't really need res or attributes from here, so getting an open suffix to go along with this to put +1 minimum frenzy charges was good enough for me. Next up is the weapon. I bought a base staff with +2 all spell skill gems and the Takati's Alva Temple mod with an open prefix. Suffixes were filled, so I put a dummy prefix on and did reforge keep prefix until I had an open suffix, then put the bench on for prefix can't be changed and hit it with a veiled chaos orb. There are a few mods that would be decent here, but getting the crit multi while nearby rare or uniques was good enough for me, and I finished it off with a multi mod using +2 support gems and chance for double damage. This is more damage than the best rolled Dusk Dawn. I did want to compare this to a Cane of Kulamak with 3 out of 3 mods that I wanted, but there wasn't any on the market unfortunately. I can say that a 2 out of 3 mod Cane is worse than Dusk Dawn, in my opinion. Next up will be skill gem setups and changes. For the 6-link chest, I'm using Empower, Divergent Cast and Damage Taken, Awaken Fire Penetration, Increase Critical Damage, Anomalous Volatile Dead, and Divergent Blazing Salvo. The main difference between this and the previous video is I swapped out Elemental Penetration for Empower, boosting the damage further of Volatile Dead and Blazing Salvo. For the 6-link weapon, I did change this up significantly from the previous, and I'm currently using Divergent Cast and Damage Taken, Awakened Added Lightning, Empower, Awakened GMP, Ball Lightning, and Anomalous Spark. This setup provides optimal clear and damage. As I was able to get my ward high enough, currently sitting at 1845 with Flask active, I was able to drop Vampirism on the Anoint for the Amulet and go with a double curse setup by anointing Whispers of Doom for further damage. This brings me to the skill gem setup for the helmet. We do need 1 cold skill in order to maximize our Ascendancy effectiveness, and after testing, I am going with Eye of Winter. I have this linked up with Divergent Cast and Damage Taken, Awakened Added Cold Damage, and Elemental Weakness. As for the gloves, I am using Cast and Damage Taken, Anomalous Forbidden Rite, Anomalous Purity of Elements, and then I have a white socket, either for Phase Run or Righteous Fire. I'll use Phase Run if, for example, I'm running Harvest and want to zoom through maps a bit more, or Righteous Fire if I'm doing harder content where the targets have much more HP and I want that bit of extra damage. In the Stygian belt, I did pick up a jewel with phasing on kill, so I don't get body blocked by enemies while doing simulacrums and such. I use Flame Dash and the Ring. Lastly is gem setup for the boots and working with CDR. There does seem to be some conflicting conversation regarding what works and doesn't, but here's what I am using based on my testing. I have 59% total reduced duration on my 2 dust jewels, and I removed less duration support from the gem setup. I am currently running Cast and Damage Taken, Desecrate, Anomalous Summon Skeletons, and Anomalous Minion Speed. I'd like to briefly discuss cooldown recovery and breakpoints, which I didn't have much knowledge on previously, but have looked into this with a good amount of detail and have done quite a bit of testing as well. The breakpoint I'd suggest going for is 27% CDR, which can be obtained with a 12% benchcraft on the belt and a T1 CDR roll on the boots. 27% will get you 0.20 on your cast and damage taken cooldown, which gives you 5 casts per second. The next breakpoint isn't until 52% CDR and has 6 casts per second, but in order to get this, you will need multiple Abyss Jewels with 3% CDR on them, as well as elevated CDR on the boots, and a T1 roll on the belt as well. To help show why there are breakpoints, I took a couple of clips, one with the current 27% CDR with 0.20 cooldown, and another with what I had previously, 35% CDR and 0.19 cooldown. I have slowed the video down to be able to see what's going on a bit better. On each server frame, the image on the skill gets updated. On the left, we see the current 27%, and you'll notice there are 6 even pie slices on each rotation. What this means is it takes 6 frames after it's cast for it to be ready to be cast again. Next, on the right, we have the 35% setup. Here, you'll notice that it also has 6 pie slices, but the last one is about half as big as the others. So it is going faster than the 27%, but not fast enough to get it down to 5 frames. To get it down to 5 frames, you'll need 52% CDR that I mentioned previously. Next up will be jewels and flasks. Here are my current flasks. I have managed to get a third flask to work, and any flask, not just overflowing chalice. I am using bottled faith for my third flask and have a 28% quality, 40% increased charges used roll on my Olras Resolve. I did test Dying Sun as well, but as we are using survival secrets, this is only granting us +1 projectile, and not worth it in my opinion. I believe these numbers will be pretty spot on, though if you get more charges gained, you can get less duration and vice versa, but every setup that is different than this will require your own set of testing. Here are my current jewels. The one with the percent damage on it, I'm currently only using 5 of the 6 nodes, and the full 6 on the 35% effect one. It wasn't until recently I hit a flask duration on one of the clusters, and this actually allowed me to remove one of the 6 points on the damage cluster. So that's why I say these numbers are pretty spot on. Looking at my character sheet, I have 78% flask duration, 20% reduced charges used, 100% increased charges gained. My Bala isn't granting anything flask related and is giving me 40% elemental damage and 20% projectile damage. Lastly, on this video, I did make a minor Pantheon change. I changed Soul of Ralakesh to Soul of Yugal, which allowed me to drop Curse Effect on the ring and take the crit multi in its place. I am still taking Soul of Irakali for the major Pantheon. I'll leave you guys with a Maven kill, and thanks for watching, and have a nice day.
The prize piece comes to join
my collection. Pain will be returned tenfold. Space aligns. Behold my collection.
I will have what I want. This will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry. Stand. Why?
Resistance will be punished. Time controls. Scurry, scurry.
My irritation is growing. Death will not be an escape. Scurry, scurry.
Stop resisting. Punishment inescapable.